your business strategy. Thank you very much, Bethany. So welcome to today's session of Perfecting the Pitch series titled Creating Your Business Strategy. This session is co-sponsored by Emory in collaboration with Africa Bio and the BioAfrica Convention. And this program is targeted at African scientists aiming to scale their innovation into the marketplace and turn their innovation into profitable ventures. And so advancing healthcare innovation in Africa, called AHEA, is a program based at Emory University here in Atlanta, Georgia, which aims to advance healthcare innovation and technologies in Africa through a bidirectional corridor between US-based resources and advisory and Africa-based early science life innovators and strategic partners. This program has been in existence for over 20 years and continuously strive to provide tangible insights and strategic support to African health innovators to support their innovation and improve overall health outcomes in the region. The Perfecting the Pitch series is a three-part series that aims to introduce entrepreneurial scientists and innovators to basic business concepts that are needed to develop and bring the pitch or their business ideas into the marketplace. The first two series was held in May and July, and we have the videos for these sessions on YouTube. We'll be sharing the links to these videos, and please do well to look up these videos if you were not able to join us on the first session, which was titled How to Craft a Successful Pitch. We had a very wonderful innovator, Dr. Kano, who joined us and shared very valuable insights on how he was able to pitch his idea to potential investors and secured tangible investments in his business. And also 2 weeks ago, we had a session on defining your problem. Dr. Genevieve Thompson, based in South Africa, joined us and shared really valuable insights on how she was able to define a problem and help to address so many of the diagnostics deficits in South Africa during the COVID pandemic. And today's section will be broken into three parts. The first part will be a lecture by Professor Charlie Goetz, who has done well to provide very valuable knowledge to attendees in the first two sessions. And this will be followed by an innovator case study where we have the opportunity of featuring Dr. Laud Anthony, who is a very experienced entrepreneur and scientist, and he'll be sharing his experience with pitching, with defining his problem, and also creating a very successful business strategy. And then following this presentation, we would have a question and answer session. And please feel free to drop your questions during the presentation, and we will do well to answer them upon the completion of the presentation. So I'll briefly introduce our two esteemed speakers today. Professor Charlie Goetz is one of the co-founders of Emory and is a professor of business at the Goetz Business School here at Emory University. Prior to pursuing a career in academia, he had over 15 years of experience in developing and growing entrepreneurial ventures. He has been responsible for starting and building 9 new ventures to date, and he's delivered returns that are very astronomical to the investors. He is a seasoned professor and teaches entrepreneurship to MBA and undergrads here at Emory University, and he's written 3 very wonderful books, including a novel titled Angels of Conspiracy. And Dr. Laud Anthony is a scientist, entrepreneur, innovator, and an engineer. He has a background both in microbiology and biomedical engineering, and is a lecturer at the very famous Kwame Nkrumah University of Technology in Ghana. He's also the founder and CEO of Incas Diagnostics, which is a biotech firm that develops and manufactures point-of-care tests specifically for the African market. Dr. Basing has 3 patents and 21 products, and in July 2020, he was selected as a Gates goalkeeper by the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation. He was also nominated as one of the 50 most influential young Ghanaians in May 2021. And in May 2023, just recently, he won the Best Health Startup Prize at the African Health Excon in Cairo. He's a very interesting and passionate speaker, and he'll be sharing from his wealth of experience today. And please feel free to drop any questions directly to him or in the chat. And with that being said, I will pass the baton over to Dr. Charlie to get us started with the lecture piece. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you can, Marcus, if you could let me get in, that would be great, Moses. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I'd like to talk today about strategies of successful entrepreneurs. Let's get started with that. Here's why investors look at it. Remember, we're talking about the pitch. And in the pitch, there's a section for strategy and tactics. So that's what we're focusing on today. Here's what happens. Your idea, your solution, where everybody's focused might be great. They might generate a lot of interest. But the problem is, it's the strategies and tactics that tell the investor whether you can translate that great product idea into a profitable business. So it is a very important set of slides. And what I want to do today is kind of spend some time with you, instead of talking just about strategy, but actually showing you examples of business strategies that investors really love. And with that, we're going to talk about 10 specific winning business strategies that really, if you can talk about one or two or even more of them in your presentation, you're really going to get a lot of interest from investors. So number one is the competitive advantage. Yes, everybody knows you need a competitive advantage to be successful. But the truth of the matter is, many people many entrepreneurs presenting their business don't have what is truly a competitive advantage. They may think they do. And the key here is that a competitive advantage is essential to being successful. And it is what you do better than your competitors. So let's talk about the three required elements. First, it's something you do better than your competitors. If you don't do anything better than your competitors, no need to really have you doing your business. Second, that your company, that your customers sufficiently value. Yes, you might do something different, but is it something that the market really cares about? And if it's something they really care about, that would be great. And finally, and this is where most companies fall down, it has to be something you can defend. What I mean by defending it could be a patent, could be a trade secret, could be certain knowledge, could be certain connections. But the reality is you have to prove to your investors that you can defend it and protect it against others copying it. Number two is testing the market. Investors really love this when you've done it. So a lot of people are in early stage in their business, may not have customers yet. And so what the investors are looking for is that, have you really test your market? And what most people do is they say, well, we've talked to some customers, to some prospects, and they go, okay, that's fine, but that doesn't excite them. What really excites them is doing a test for the market. And here's how I've created an idea that's really done very well. I'd like you to run an ad, some kind of ad. Now, you can do it in a newspaper, but since we're in the 21st century, we're going to do it on the internet. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to ask you to go purchase some Google AdWords, because most people are going to be searching for something similar to what you're doing anyway. So by purchasing a few Google AdWords, let's say $100 or $200 budget, and then creating a free one-page website with some information about what your product's going to be. If you could put a picture or a diagram, even better. And then run your Google ads. What will happen is one of two things. Either in a few days, all the money's going to be gone. And once your money is gone, so are your ads. And the benefit is, if it's $1 per each click, and all of a sudden you have 50 people who are interested, and you show that in 2 days, 50 people are interested in what you had, you show that to your investors, they're going to be really excited. However, if it's 2 months later and you still have left 95% of the money, you probably need to change what you're doing. The third way is to do something like a Kickstarter. Now, that's a lot more effort, and I don't recommend you do that early, but a lot of people do it obviously to help sell their product, but it's also a good way to market your product and to test your market. The third one is the advisory board. Now, I'm going to tell you more often than not, an advisory board is one of the most powerful tools you can use. Now, a lot of people think of the board of directors. And the reality is most people don't want to be on board of directors anymore. Good, people are successful, who have accomplished things, because there's legal risk. So what we recommend is, in addition, to have a board of advisors. The term board of advisors basically gets them around any legal liability. And there are 4 types of people you want on your board of advisors. Number 1, you want someone who has great reputation or credibility in the industry. Now, I'm going to talk a little later at the next slide on how to find these people. But if you get somebody who has great reputation in the industry, you know what happens? You benefit from this concept of guilt by association. In a good way, obviously. By virtue of this person being on your board of advisors, people say, well, that person's really good, you must be really good. The next one is have someone with great connections, someone who can get you in front of CEOs of your prospects in your market. Because it takes a long time for salespeople to move up to that level. But if you can get somebody who knows a lot of those players, you can get in much quicker and your business grows much faster. Number 3, you want somebody who's hopefully, if you've never built a venture before, who has at least experience in building a venture, because there are certain problems, certain roadblocks that they can help you get through. And those are really valuable. And the 4th person is somebody who either can stroke a big check or has access to people who can stroke a big check. These 4 people will revolutionize and enhance your probability of success dramatically. So how do we find these people? This is the key question. And the way we're going to find these people, okay, is that we're going to do a number of different ways. We're going to look at other advisory boards, okay, in our industry, and maybe some of those people would be interested. But what I have found most useful of all is to basically talk to people who are about to retire, who just retired, who are well known in the industry or have great connections in the industry. And a lot of them are worried about retirement. They're worried about being bored. They want to do things. They want to be part of something. And they love helping younger individuals to build their business. They want to be part of it more so than just investing. Yes, they may invest, but they want to be more. And they love that giving back kind of thing. And you can use that to your advantage. And to do this, you might want to start with your own contacts, your own LinkedIn connections. Go to angel group meetings and other company advisory board meetings if you can. And these are opportunities to find really good advisors that can help you on your road. The 4th one is what we call credibility. I have so often seen when I invest frequently in businesses, and I see lots of presentations where the product looks interesting, but there's no credibility. The management has no credibility and the business or product has no credibility. What happens is people don't buy without credibility. And the way you get credibility, obviously, is to eventually get customers who give you great references. And hopefully you'll create video references because those are much more valuable than written ones. When you do this, obviously you're going to get credibility, but it's a catch-22. How do you get customers if they're not believing you have credibility? And to do that, what we would suggest you do is a number of different ways, okay? We would like you to build this profile, this advisory board, because that advisory board will give you credibility. If you don't have that, then you need to use your own management successes. Some of the successes may be early. It might be just your degrees or your previous work experience, but you need to have some reason to believe, so they believe you can actually do what you say you can do. It is critical in order for them to be comfortable. As far as market penetration, okay, good news is you're ready to go into the market. Many small companies make the mistake of going after the big market all at once, competing against the really big guys. Unfortunately, we have proof of a lot of really attractive products that have failed and mediocre products that have succeeded because their people who run their companies were understood that you don't rush into the big market. You basically find a niche in the marketplace. And if you find a niche in the marketplace, you can customize your product to that niche. Now, the nice thing about a niche is it's too small for the big competitors to play. They're not going to bother trying to create a product to meet that smaller group. Our goal is very simple. We want to get good references early, and they will be our references because we met exactly what they were looking for. And then once we get those 3 to 5 really good video references, that's when we will move on to the next level where we can start actually moving into the larger market competing because we have those really good references to base our business on. The next one is what we call the business model. I have seen lots of really good presentations, investor presentations, but they don't tell me how they're going to make money. Yes, they show me financial projections, but they don't say, how does the business make money? And that's really important. The most traditional business model goes back thousands and thousands of years. It is the classic retail business model. It says that you buy a product from your wholesale for X, and you sell it to your customers for 2X. And that business model made sense, and it worked for thousands of years. But due to the internet and computers and things, there are a lot of new, different business models. HP printers, their business model is basically to give a printer at a cost that is lower than what they actually paid to create it for you. The reason is they know that if you buy their printer and they give you a little bit of free ink, you're going to need to be buying much, much more ink. Every time you pay $35 for an ink cartridge that cost them 17 cents, they're making back. Google. Now, everybody says, well, what's Google's business model? And people say, well, they have lots, they sell advertising. And the truth is, yes, but that's only part one. The second one is they couldn't sell advertising unless a lot of people came to their sites. So they gave away free, great information. So they get billions of eyes looking at it. And those billions of eyes are sellable. And that's what they're selling, okay? So that when you're buying an ad on their site, you're really buying access to those billion eyes. Orbitz, Priceline, Hotels.com. These are companies that you probably also have in Africa or something like this who sell discount hotels or discount flights or discount auto rentals. What these companies are selling is different than what most companies are selling. They're selling expiring inventory. And that is really what makes them different. And they're saying, look, if you don't sell that seat on the plane today, because the plane's leaving tomorrow, there's a good chance that seat's going empty and you're going to make no money. So if you can get some money for it, it's better. And that's how they make their business. The last example is Rolls-Royce airplane engines. Rolls-Royce was the #1 airplane engine in the world for many, many years. They were the most prestigious. But all of a sudden, there were lots of new competitors, whether it was General Electric or Siemens. All of a sudden, they started stealing big market share. And when you build airplanes, the cost of engines are 1/3 the price of building an airplane. So they said, well, we're losing market share. We need to change our business model. And they changed it. Instead of saying, okay, you got to buy your 2 engines up front, what we're going to do is we're not going to charge you up front. We're going to charge you per mile flown. And that's much easier for the airlines because they're getting revenue at the time. Thereby enabling somebody, instead of buying 2 planes, to buy 3 planes for the same amount of money. Remember, they're in the business of flying people. If they can get more planes, they can get more seats, and they can put obviously more people in their seats. Now, here's a concept that's not often discussed, and it's the idea of cross-selling. What is cross-selling? You sell your initial product, but if you can sell a secondary or a third product or service that goes with it, you are going to be much more likely to be successful. So let's look at the reasons. First, the first product is very costly to sell. It requires meeting a new person, and the process of credibility and everything takes a long time, and it reduces your margins. However, once you have a customer that's happy, all you need to do is say, hey, we have another product or service that we can add to that. It's much easier to sell because they're happy already. Yes, I'd love to try that. And you make much bigger margins. The other thing that it does, it helps retain customers. If you own an Apple phone, you probably have lots of Apple-related products. It's hard to leave Apple. The more products or services you have with a customer, the greater the probability of retention is, and that gets investors excited. And one final reason is it helps you stay in front of your customers to talk to them about what else is your problem so they can create new and better products. The next one is something called milestones, and I don't really know why it's not showing very well here. But anybody ever heard the term milestones? So here's what happens. An investor sees a really good investor presentation, and they say they're going to do X, Y, and Z, and it looks wonderful. The problem is the investor realizes, great, it's a wonderful plan, but how are you going to make sure that plan happens? And the way we make sure that plan happens is something we call milestones. And what milestones is a methodology to manage each element of the process. At first, it might sound a little strange on how to do it, but I can tell you that companies who use milestones are significantly more successful. Investors love to hear about those milestones, okay? Understand how you created what comes first, what comes next, and who's responsible. So let's look at the the 4 elements of a milestone. First off, it must have a goal, one goal and only one goal. The next one is it must have a due date. Without a due date, things go on much longer than they should. No time should the due date be longer than 90 days. Break things into smaller parts if you can, but preferably 30 days, because if it's not done on time, you need time to redo it, and that can throw everything else off. Number 3, one person is responsible for it, and that person is identified. If there's a budget associated, that person knows what the budget is, but here's the most important part. That person signs off on those elements and agrees, he or she agrees, that they can accomplish that milestone. That makes the impetus for them to really go above and beyond to try to be successful. The next one is a marketing and sales plan. One of the things when we ask entrepreneurs, what do you think is the #1 reason why businesses fail? You'd be surprised how many of them don't know. They say things like, cash flow, which is part of it, but it's really not. The cash flow is a symptom, not a cause. And they could say other things, but they don't really understand the #1 reason. And the #1 reason that businesses fail is lack of sales. It's a lot of reasons. I'm going to discuss 3 of them in a second, but it's really easy to create sales on an Excel spreadsheet. If you don't like the number, change your assumption, and all of a sudden the sales go up. So here are the 3 reasons lack of sales happen. It could be that their marketing methodology is not working and it's not generating the number of leads that they had projected. Maybe they get in front of a prospect, but they're not very good at convincing the prospect, yes, here are the skills, here are the unique things that you need, or maybe they're just very poor salespeople. But the most common reason is inadequate product market fit. Their product doesn't meet what the market really needs. And therefore, because of that, they're not able to sell the product. Consequently, investors need to feel comfortable that your company has both good marketing and sales plans. So it needs to be in your investor presentation, some conversation about that. Therefore, all successful investor presentations must address these items, or they're not going to solve and make the investor feel like they want to put money in that company. So here are what investors are looking for. They're looking for a senior management, somebody with extensive experience in marketing that they can feel comfortable, who really knows what they're doing, either marketing or sales related. A person who's either on board today or the individual has been identified. You can't say, I found somebody, but not give us that information on that person. It has to be specific. A person has to be identified. We need to see either their resume or some bullet points of what they've achieved. And preferably, the person is already in that industry. We'd like to see some examples of company marketing ads if you've already done it. And how did those ads do? Well, how are you doing social media? Whatever you're doing, let's talk about it. And you may want to test some of those ads prior to actually launching your business. And this could be a good place to show how those ads worked and to make the investors excited about that. List of key marketing objectives and marketing tactics. Show us that you understand what needs to happen. Make sure your assumptions are reasonable and that they're not laughing at the assumptions. And examples of marketing objectives. Where will you focus your efforts? What results do you expect? Okay, do you expect? And here's something, this concept of how much does it cost to get a new customer? Frequently, I see entrepreneurs who have no idea what that cost of acquisition even means, or if they do even understand it, never calculated what is it costing to get a new customer relative to, so what are we spending to get them to buy our product? And that is very important because frequently we find our pricing is not sufficient to cover the really expensive cost of generating a new customer. We're looking for who is responsible for attaining the objectives. This relates also to milestones. And how do you plan to achieve the results that you said you're going to achieve in your marketing and sales process? The last one I left for last specifically because it's so valuable. And it's the concept of deciding what is the fair value of your company. You're raising money and the investor wants to know how much are you valuing the company at? Now, you feel like, oh, I think it's worth this much. And you come up with a number that's kind of random with not really a lot of background information on why you even picked it. If that number is high, they've already turned off. You've turned them off because it's not worth negotiating. Your number is just ridiculous. So you need to have a feel for what is reasonable as a starting valuation. And unfortunately, there's no real scientific way to do that. That said, here's what most investors do, okay? The entrepreneurs overvalue it, but the investors are going to look at it and discount the numbers to some extent. While there are many ways to value a company, the most common method that are used by both entrepreneurs and somewhat investors is using what is your projected numbers, discounting it for some return rate that they're expecting, and determining if that's going to be effective. Now, they're going to discount your numbers if they think the numbers are unrealistic. However, seasoned investors are naturally skeptical, we know that, and therefore are overwhelmingly, they don't trust your numbers, and they want actually to use your own spreadsheets to come up with their own numbers. So how do most seasoned investors determine a new or early stage company's value? And I wish I knew this many years ago when I was building my businesses. This would have really been helpful. A concept has a value. If it's a technology concept, it could even be as high as $1 million. But most concepts are only going to be in the tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have an idea. The next time the value of your company increases, and not until the exact moment that it actually is accomplished, the moment you have created a prototype product or service, the moment you actually completed it, that's when your value goes up. Now, it goes up somewhat, and the reason it goes up, and the reason anytime value goes up, and this is important, is that it actually reduces risk, the investor's risk. Why does investors feel like it's less risky? Because you have now taken away, can you build that product? That's one less thing I have to worry about. Therefore, I'm more likely to give you money. So when people raise money, they oftentimes try to raise all the money they need that they think for the next 5 years. And that's a big mistake because they're going to end up having to give away a lot of the business. And it's not about building only a successful business. Yes, that's important, but it's not about ending up with 1% of the business. We want you to end up with a fair and reasonable percentage that hopefully changes your life. Okay, this is the seed capital. This is what we call friends, family, and fools who put the money in at that point. The next is a customer valuation. You got customers buying your product. That is unbelievably valuable. Once you get a few of those, all of a sudden your valuation increases dramatically because, as they say, the dogs are eating the dog food. And that is a really an important idea to management because that's the biggest risk. Will people buy your product? The next step, which we call the Series A funding, is going to be, okay, we may need senior managers that we haven't had before, a CFO, maybe even a new CEO, but they might require other people that need to be in position. And then in Series B, this is ones who are looking for growth. They're looking for a way to see that, okay, you've proven your concept, but now, I see people are buying it, but now we want to give you a whole lot of money so that you can grow this really quickly and give us even a lot more money back. These are usually VCs in this game at this point in time. Normally they may come in A, but rarely. Most of the time they're going to come in Series B type of things. I hope that answers a lot of people's questions about valuation and about also the other elements to include within their actual investor presentation. I hope that also helps you as far as any other questions you may have. With that, I'm going to send you over to Laud Anthony. So, Laud, would you take it from here, please? You're mute, Laud. Laud, you're mute.
Yes. Thank you very much. I was hoping that probably it could be a question and answer thing, but I'll take it anyway and go ahead with it. Yeah.
No. Thank you very much, first, Dr. Charlie, for such a very wonderful presentation. And I particularly liked the 10 points you shared, specifically on the marketing and sales plan and how companies fail primarily due to lack of sales. And it's very interesting to have Laud here. So we want to hear, how are you still afloat? How are you?
I would love to talk about that, but I think right now we want Laud to make tell us about his presentation first.
Yes. So Laud, go ahead and tell us about Incas and and just share with the group whatever you want to share with us today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And as Prof. Goetz was giving his presentation, I was basically writing a lot of notes because while we have been able to do quite a number of the things he's spoken about, there are quite new insights that I have learned. So thank you very much. It's a very insightful talk and insightful presentation. So Incas Diagnostics, it's a company located in Ghana. We develop and manufacture diagnostics. And before we started, there were very few companies in Africa that actually do what we do. So at that time, we thought that was a competitive advantage anyway, but listening to him talk, I realized that that's not really that much of a competitive advantage for us. But we started initially as a medical laboratory. This was because I had identified the problem. I was working in Ghana's second largest hospital. That's called the Confanoche Teaching Hospital at the time. And at the time, I realized that a lot of the people who came to the hospital, when they were asked to go to the laboratory, it took quite a number of weeks for them to bring in the lab results. And some of them do not even come back until later, when it's probably not too late, but when the disease is far advanced, that's when they come back. And then they'll tell you that the cost of laboratory going to the lab was too much, and that's why they couldn't come back. So I had this idea that I wanted to start a company that was going to develop, that was basically, I was going to start a medical lab, and the medical lab was going to basically give produce very, very inexpensive tests for patients. I was very naive because at the time I had gone to the internet and I realized that the reagents and all of that were not too expensive. So I expected to be able to do this very, very easily. However, within a few weeks, I realized that this was not going to be possible because there were too many middlemen when it came to these diagnostic kits. And then apart from that, we imported everything. And so when you add shipping, you add all the middle people that are in there, the importer who sells to somebody else, who also sells to somebody else before it gets to the customer. The markup was too much, and there was no way I was going to be able to sustain basically the price at a level that I wanted. And so I took the bold decision that I wanted to add knowledge to myself. So I wanted to go and learn how to make these test kits. It's a long story, but I went to do a postgraduate study and all of that to be able to learn how to make these kits. Afterwards, I got the opportunity to be employed in a company that was doing these kits. I added value to myself. I learned how to make them. And then when I felt that I had learned enough and I could do it without supervision, I quit my job and I came back to Ghana to basically pivot from being a medical lab to being a test kit development and manufacturing company. And it has been a very wonderful journey, although there's been a lot of challenges in that it's in Africa. And unlike the US, where you can just basically order reagents and within a week or two, the reagents get in, sometimes even 48 hours, these things get in and you'll be able to work on them in the lab. On the other hand, sometimes when you order a product, it can take 3 months. It can even take more than that. And so it makes a lot of things very slow. The second thing that I also the second challenge that I had to overcome at that time was that I realized it was going to be very difficult to as a startup to do R&D. At the time, we had only one product. It was a 3-in-1 test of vaginal infections. And doing the R&D for all the other products that I had in mind was going to be difficult because R&D cost a lot. And so how was I going to be able to do this? And so I came up with a strategy, and the strategy was basically, as Prof said, credibility. I decided that I was going to apply for and be employed by a university. So once I am employed by the university as a researcher in the university, it gives me credibility to be able to apply for academic grants. And so once I was able to apply for academic grants, I used the academic grants to then do R&D. And once I got a product that was worth commercializing, as part of the agreements when it came to the commercial, that came to the grants that I was offered, I had the opportunity to commercialize some of these products. My company had this opportunity. And so we had this very nice, we have this very nice symbiotic relationship where what I do is that the academic side does which is the Basing lab at KNUST. We do the R&D, we get the academic grants, do all the lab work that we are supposed to do. And then the commercial side, whenever we develop something that has commercial value, the commercial side is the Incas Diagnostics, which has an agreement, a memorandum of understanding with KNUST, then commercializes it, and then it becomes a product. That is how we've been able to solve that problem of R&D and all of that. Now, when we started, it was just one product. We also were selling to the laboratories and a few individuals. What we realized with the laboratories was that maybe a laboratory in Ghana would need quite a number of products. They will need maybe a pregnancy test, they will need HIV, they will need hepatitis B. So if you are selling only one product, then it becomes a problem when they want to buy in bulk, because they would have to buy from you, then go somewhere else to go and buy and all of that. And so once again, as Prof said, one of the strategies we used was to basically expand our product line. Right now we have about 13 products, but each of the 13 products are different variations. So for instance, a pregnancy test, we have a pregnancy test strip, which the labs love, and then a pregnancy test cassette, which the pharmacies and individuals like. So we had all of these together, and then we ended up with a portfolio of the most commonly used products. And before that, we had done market survey. We got all of these. So we went into it with a background that we had the information. We knew that people wanted these products. We had done a market survey among the laboratories and among the pharmacies, and we know that these are the products that they like to buy most. And so we produced that for them. And it has been wonderful. We've had customers, not only do we have the laboratories and individuals, we have pharmacies, we even have medical supplies and pharmaceutical suppliers that buy from us. And those are some of the lessons that we've learned along the way. Another thing has been with a competitive advantage. As I said, we've most of the organizations or our competitors are actually imported products. And so some of the advantages, the fact that when you import, it usually takes a few months before it gets into the country. But with us, one of the advantages that we put across is the fact that we are able to deliver within a very short time. We are competitive in the sense that we are less expensive than the imported products. We have gone through all the regulatory processes. So when you are buying from us, you are assured of the fact that it has gone through the regulatory process. Whatever your results are, it's reproducible. You're not going to go into trouble for all of these things. And then at the end of the day, we also realize that when they buy from us, we give them a little bit of financial leeway. You do not have to pay all of it at the same. We give them up to 30 days to be able to pay back, something that they will not be able to do when they import the products and all of that. So at the end of the day, we're able to get quite a number of customers. Currently, we have about 43 paying customers that keep coming. Our revenue we have customers that are paying, and so we've been able to get a bit of revenue, which has been consistent year on year. This year we are actually expanding. We are expanding at a very fast rate. Currently, there's shortage of HIV kits across the continent, and so one of the challenges we've had has been with getting external regulation. We are regulated in Ghana, but we need external regulation like ISO 13485. So that is where we are moving very fast to be able to obtain, so that we'll be able to supply other people apart from those that we supply in Ghana. So generally, this has been our experience. Now, when it comes to the pitch itself, so that is just a little bit of a background. But when it comes to a pitch itself, one of the things that have always helped us has been the fact that what I just presented in terms of what the company is about, that is what we present in our pitches. Depending on the number of minutes you have or the amount of time you have, we're able to structure this down so that we are able to present it to people. But basically, whenever I have to give a pitch, I tell them the situation on the ground. I tell them the challenges, because most of these investors actually know most of these challenges. So if you're able to talk about the challenges that you are going through and how you are able to overcome these challenges, it helps them know that, again, it comes to credibility. It helps them know that you know exactly what you're talking about, and you would be able to get all the timelines that you want to get. When I pitch, I am very honest about the fact that it takes a long time for the raw materials to get in, and that's a huge challenge. But we are able to get around it by buying in bulk, so that at the end of the day, you know that maybe I have 3 months. So within the first 2 months, you can then buy new supplies and all of that, so that at the end of the day, you know very well that you will not run out of raw materials. So those are some of the things. Once you make the investors aware of the fact that these are the challenges, and most of them are actually aware, because they are not first-time investors. They might have invested in other companies on the continent. And so once you start to talk to them about some of the challenges and how you are able to overcome these challenges, they are able to help. And an advisory board, very wonderful. For us, we do have an advisory board, and our advisory board were carefully selected based on, yes, the credibility on the field, and also what value they add to us. For instance, one of our advisory board members is actually somebody who has extensive experience with regulation. And for us, it's very important for us, because it's a product that we are in a sector that is highly regulated. The diagnostic field is very, very regulated. So when you have somebody who has an experience in that field and is able to navigate it, you're able to get these regulatory processes very, very well done. As I said at the beginning, we are getting ISO 13485, which is the ISO certification that we need. We are getting WHO pre-qualification. This person has been a consultant for a lot of companies across the continent, across the world, that has been able to do all of these. And so as an advisory board member, he's able to help us to be able to do all of these things. And he offers trainings and all of that. Of course, when he gives us those services, we pay him for the service. So he's no longer, although he's on our advisory board, we value his time and his expertise by actually paying him for that. And it's been a wonderful relationship because we are able to do these things. So again, when it comes to credibility and all of that, it's very, very important in the company, in getting the investors or getting a pitch across, and we've been able to do all of that. The last point I'd like to talk about is our business model, which Prof talked about. Basically, when it comes to how we are able to make money, we are able to articulate this extremely well. The experience I have had is that a lot of times when we go for a pitch, we actually get a lot of people talking about the problem and all of that, but we realize that most of the questions come around what the business model is. How are you making money? How are you sustainable? How are you able to sustain and grow with the model that you have currently? And so we have had, over the course of our time, to change our business model a little bit. Initially, we started by targeting individuals and laboratories. It got to a point we realized that we're getting money, but we're getting in small quantities. A laboratory may buy 100 boxes of pregnancy tests or 100 boxes of hepatitis B tests. And then you have to wait a long while before another, they come and make another purchase because they have to use what they have. But then when you realize that if you get a supplier, for instance, that supplier will buy 5,000 boxes. That gives you instant, and then the suppliers pay instantly, while a lab may take up to 30 days to be able to pay. So we realize that we are changing our business model, or we are even getting different models for different customers that we have and all of that. So once you're able to articulate your business model very, very, very well, we realize that investors like that, and we are able to win pitches just based on our business model alone, because they love the fact that, one, you are already making money, and this is the business model you're using, and this is what you foresee will be the problem in the next few years, and this is how you're going to get around the problems. You're able to get around the challenges and all of that. And that has been our secret to winning a number of pitch competitions and also pitching in front of investors, getting feedback and all of that. So I'll pause for now and wait for questions so that we'll be able to expand further. Thank you very much, Moses and Prof.
Excellent. Charlie, seems like you have a reaction. Go ahead.
I learned a lot, specifically when you were talking, about how, but in the business model, how you're changing it. I think that's great information for people to know. It doesn't have to be static. It can be dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Laud. That's a very, very, very insightful speech. And I think you answered the question that Francis has asked. Francis asked that what part of the presentation do you give the most attention? And I think you did very well to answer that question. Are there other probably aspects of the presentation that you emphasize on other than the business model when you're pitching and presenting to investors?
Well, yes, and I think when you look on it, as Prof, I think alluded to it, is the value, and the value is not only the value to the customers, but the value to the investor as well. And that value could actually be finance, basically, because you need to ask yourself, if I am going to put money into a company, what am I looking for? Right, and it could be return on investment. It could. There are people that actually put in money because they are interested in a particular value. Let's say they are interested in healthcare. Okay, they are interested in, they've made their money, they are interested in maybe generating the next generation of healthcare innovators. So once you know the value that the investor wants, you can model your pitch around that value, and the investor is likely to invest in it because of that. I've gone for a pitch where all the questions from that particular investor was, how many people are you training? What are the ages of your staff? What are the trainings you offer for that particular person? His value was in getting the next generation of innovators trained. Okay, so, and it helps for you to know the background of the people you are going to pitch to. One of the things that I don't joke about is just before the pitch, when they post who the judges are going to be and all of that. I quickly Google them and know what exactly they are interested in, so that I tailor my pitch in such a way that I have value for each of those who are coming for the pitch. And sometimes you realize that as you pitch and you look at them, you see that they start to nod when you hit on a value that they are valuable and that they crave. And at the end of the day, that is what investors look for. So it is not just only the value proposition to the client or to the customer, but to the investor and whoever is listening to your pitch as well. That is one of the things that I have found.
Excellent.
I want to add a little bit to that, because I'm talking about as far as raising money. One of the things I think is a different angle. You should raise money, of course, but a lot of money we're raising, if you will, oftentimes because we have inventory. A lot of it is related to inventory. I'll tell you a little interesting way of doing it. Find a couple of vendors that say, you know what, we will do business with you. Here's our plan. We're going to be huge. We're going to be a big player in your business. Get them excited. And you know that your inventory turns, let's say, 4 times a year. Let's just make it easy, 4 times a year. If they would be willing to give you a timing instead of, paying you immediately when you get delivery, maybe instead you say, how about if I pay you 90 or 100 days later? Okay. Well, what happens in that 100 days later is you've already sold all that inventory. You've already gotten the cash. And now all of a sudden, if they continue with this, you have just cut down the amount of money you need for investment dramatically. And that's been very successful.
Oh, that's an awesome insight, Dr. Charlie. I don't know if you want to also add, there's a question from Sophia, who says, how do you balance the dynamic when you're trying to, please your customers and also please the people who are investing to you? What do you do when, they're interested?
It's a good question. Excellent question. But here's the reality. If you make your customers happy, you'll make your investors happy.
Exactly. Most of the time, the value they are looking for is shared. So make your customers happy and make your investors happy. Perfect answer.
Absolutely. Wow, this is a very, very, very engaging session. Thank you very much, Laud Anthony and Dr. Charlie, for such a very wonderful, wonderful, wonderful presentation. Personally, I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the attendees are very happy with what they've been able to pick up from this session. And so we just a few announcements before we call it a day. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
You
can.
So I don't know why. Yes, so so for those of us who just joined today, if you want to access the videos on Perfecting the Pitch series for the first and second and today's session, we will be sending an announcement out later this week, probably on Friday, with the links to the YouTube videos. And please feel free to watch those videos. They're very helpful, and they would really help you to, advance what you're already doing and, get your innovation to the marketplace. And very importantly, we want to talk about the Startup Stadium and the BioAfrica Convention, which is scheduled to hold the first week of September in Durban, South Africa. In this convention, there will be a startup stadium, and we're looking for 100 startups to apply. And there's still a lot of vacancy right now. And so if you have not yet registered, we'll be sharing the website of the BioAfrica on the chat right now. So feel free to register. There's a very detailed description of how to go about applying to be featured in this startup stadium, and it comes with so many opportunities. Like you'll be able to attend the BioAfrica Academy, co-led by here Emory. You also have a free exhibition space at the startup stadium where you're able to, pitch to whoever comes to your tent and potentially secure some very useful partnerships. And you also stand the opportunity of winning prizes. These 2 prizes are listed right now, and I'm sure there are other prizes that are probably in the works. And so feel free to register, and watching the videos from Perfecting the Pitch series would definitely help you to hone your skills in pitching, in creating your slide decks and your business model to be able to, stand a very good chance of winning either of these prizes that would help elevate your work to the next level. And so this is our email address. Feel free to write us personally if you have any questions about AHIA, and we're very happy to connect with you. Also, you can reach Laud Anthony. His email address is right there. I'm sure he's also happy to help and support in whatever way he deems fit. And this is the website for the Bi-Africa Convention. Feel free to register, look up the website, look up the AHIA videos, and fine-tune your presentation and everything. And hopefully we'll be able to see you in South Africa in the coming weeks. That being said, thank you everyone for attending, and I hope you have a great day, and we look forward to receiving your application for the Startup Stadium and seeing you in South Africa.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.